I have only one question, and it's related to the cross, and it came up in a conversation on Friday night. And I think we've discussed it before. But in terms of Christ's humanity on the cross, at that moment when the sins of the world are the sins of all time, let's not say the world, but just all sins were put on him. I've heard it said, and this is how I think even MacArthur has said it, that was the one moment in time when Jesus was completely human.
When Jesus was completely human?
Yeah.
I would reject that completely.
Because God cannot be in the presence of sin. No, I don't. It's not a matter of his humanness. It's a matter of his deity.
Okay, so then the Son of God stopped being God when the sins of the world, and that is what John said, behold the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. So here's a question, right? When the Jewish man lays his hand on the lamb's head, right? Does his sin literally go onto the lamb?
No.
Right. When you are born again, does Jesus' righteousness literally at that moment attach to you?
I don't know.
I would say, well, yes, the Lord sees us as Christ. We have imputed righteousness.
That does not mean that you, as soon as you are saved, are suddenly in your life and in your flesh righteous. Because if it did mean that, you would never sin again.
Right, that's where I was thinking.
Your righteousness is a gift of the Father, right? Yeah. Righteousness is imputed to you. So here's the problem. If that's the truth, then was your literal sins placed on Jesus' body on the cross? Or was it more that when he died sacrificially, okay, the sin was imputed to him?
Oh.
Because here's the problem. To say that he only became fully human on the cross would mean several things, okay? But where I find that problematic in terms of the way that I'm thinking about it in the moment would be that he was not fully human at any point up to that.
Well, and the point becomes that that was the moment in all of eternity where the Son was separated from his Father.
Yes, that doesn't make him any less God. That's why he starts singing Psalm 22 on the cross. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? Right? That's Psalm 22. He starts reciting or singing that psalm on the cross then. We understand that. But that doesn't make him any less divine. As a matter of fact, it is only a spotless lamb that could be used to sacrifice.
I would go with that.
Okay? The lamb doesn't become any less spotless because it's sacrificed.
Wow. So again, we're in that area of taking something that's said literally when it wasn't literally, it's imputed, right? It wasn't my sin literally. It was my sin was covered.
Your sin Okay, your sin was atoned for in the sight of God once and for all. That's what Hebrews is about, right? You don't need to keep going back and doing it again and again. Okay?
Right.
Your sin was atoned for once and for all by that act on the cross. Now,
but the way that it's been, and I think MacArthur put it this way, and I think this is how it's preached often, is that all the sins for all time were placed on Jesus, which meant that God could no longer be in the presence of sin.
Yes, I've said that myself.
Yeah, but he turned his back on his son.
Yeah, I've said that too. Okay, but the reality of that is that that's good preaching. Okay, it's emotional, but is it theologically accurate? Especially when you look at what the process was. The Jewish family purchased an animal. They placed the hands, and I watched it being done the other day. Okay, we were driving through Williamsburg, and they had a whole bunch of chickens, and the Jewish women and the children were going and putting their hands, and one woman put her foot on the chicken, and now this chicken then became the sin sacrifice for this family. Did it stop being a chicken? No. Didn't stop being a chicken for one moment. But the chickens, or better yet, the people's sin was imputed to the chicken. The difference here is that Jesus, that our sin was imputed to Jesus once and for all. And yes, it is true that in his humanness, he felt abandoned. Because the reality is that sin separates you from God. Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
But does that mean that he was any less deity in those moments? No. No. Especially when he can look and say, no man takes my life except I lay it down, and I'm going to pick it up again when I'm ready. But yes, I have definitely said that for the first time and forever, God and the Father and the Son were separated from one another because of sin. That doesn't stop the Son from being the Son at all. And that's why in John 17 he says to the Father, restore to me, and this is before the cross, restore to me the glory that I had with you before the world was. He's saying that to him before the cross, which means there was already a level of separation or sacrifice that had taken place for him to be incarnated in flesh in the first place. That didn't stop him from being who he was. Because in order for something to be restored, it means that it was and at the present moment isn't. So it has to be put back, right?
And Jesus in his deity was not, what he emptied himself of was heaven.
Yes.
So he was the God-man.
Yes.
Right? On earth, in time.
Yes.
And at that point really didn't have access to heaven, which is why he prayed to the Father.
That's not true. Because remember when he's praying and he says, when he's about to raise Lazarus from the dead, he says, I'm praying out loud. I know you already hear me, but I'm doing this for the sake of the people who are here listening.
But but what I'm saying is he didn't, when I said he couldn't just go to heaven. Like, I need a break today. I'm going to heaven to be with you, Father.
It's not that he couldn't, he didn't. Because here's the reality. When he's being tempted of Satan, what does Satan say? Throw yourself off this parapet. Because if you do that, you and I both know that before your toe even hits the ground, there'd be angels all around to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, when I use the word couldn't, I mean his character couldn't.
He chose not to. Okay? Think about this. This is somebody who is raising dead people back to life.
Mm-hmm.
People who have been dead. So he has power over death and life itself, but can't go back to heaven. He can stand on the mountain and talk to folks who are dead. And his disciples can see him talking to folk who are dead. And say, this is great. We should build, temples for you guys right here. We should build altars for you guys right here. This is fantastic. This is somebody who can stand up, look around, tell the sea itself to calm down, and then go back to sleep. Okay, he was limiting himself.
I use it in the sense of not being able to. I use it in the sense of knowing what his mission, for lack of a better word.
Yes, that's right. So yes, then you could say that he restrained himself in order to fulfill the mission. Because again, when nobody can take my life, can't nobody kill me, I'm gonna put it down. And when I'm ready, I'm gonna take it up again.
To go to to go to heaven or to do something like that would be an act of disobedience to the Father.
It would be because there was a plan and because there was a mission. He, in obedience to his Father, completed the mission.
Mm-hmm. And that's what it means to empty himself. So,
you could say that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And,
I'm just trying to wrestle through it because we talked about it and I didn't, and I heard it so many times and I didn't feel I had an adequate answer. But the idea of sin being imputed onto him helps me.
I mean, think about when you've had to sacrifice for your children or for your wife. There are things that you could do. There are things that you could buy. There are things but there's a mission.
Mm-hmm.
And so to go ahead and gratify myself, would be problematic because there is a mission that has to be accomplished. Turn the stones into bread. Satisfy yourself. Nope. It's written, man shall not live by bread alone. Lucifer knew that he had the power to do that. He knew who he was talking to.
It's kind of like when Satan brought him to the mountaintop, he said to him, you can have your cake and you can eat it too.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Right.
Yeah. You're God. You can have your cake and eat it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And those three specific things, right? The three specific things, which were to turn stones into bread, which would satisfy his flesh, to bow down and worship Satan and be given the kingdoms of the world. Everything he could see, which was again appeal to his flesh, but it was more so the lust of the eyes. And then the last one was to go to the temple and jump off, because if everyone had seen this man floating to the ground because angels were making sure he did not stub his toe, he would have instant, juice in the synagogue. The pride of life. Can't do those things. That's what it's about. It is about being constrained and restraining oneself in order to accomplish what God has ordained for us to do. And that's the struggle that we all have every day. Because there are a whole bunch of things that we could just go ahead and do. Right? We are all capable of doing a whole bunch of stuff that would self-satisfy and self-gratify, but we can't do those things. And in that way, if you're using the word can't in terms of that, then I completely agree. So it's not can't in terms of inability, it's can't in terms of the mission.